Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Meet the Candidates event for the Ballston Spa School Board election. All candidates on the ballot were invited and are here. This event was organized by the Ballston Spa District and is moderated tonight by the League of Women Voters of Saratoga County. It will be recorded and posted on the school district website. League rules require that if a Meet the Candidates event is recorded, it must be broadcast or rebroadcast in its entirety. My name is Barbara Thomas. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Saratoga County, and I live in the city of Saratoga Springs, so I don't care particularly how this election comes out. And I am going to be the moderator tonight. The League of Women Voters of Saratoga County is a nonpartisan, volunteer political organization dedicated to the informed and responsible participation of citizens in government. The League never supports or opposes any political party or candidate. That has been the League policy since 1920. Membership is open to anyone who is eligible to register and vote, male or female. So please consider joining your local league. We have received questions from the public in advance. These were reviewed by league members, and questions were selected to be representative and to avoid redundancy. Questions of a personal nature are never included. Candidates, this is your opportunity to let voters know your stance on these topics and how you will address the issues facing the Ballston Spa School District. Please do not waste valuable time tearing down or labeling your opponent. Deal with the facts. In your closing, no putting your opponent on the spot without a chance to reply. We have timers for this evening's event. Cards will be held up for the candidates to glance at. Green means 1 minute left, yellow means 30 seconds, and red means time is up. A bell will also ring when time is up, I think. No, maybe it won't. Not right now, no. The 5 candidates for the 2 open school board seats in order as they appear in the ballot are Law Ryan, Jason Gertler, Christopher Zapiri, and Brody Savoy. Holly Barker Flynn. Okay, we are going to have them speak in ballot order. So the first person is Law Ryan, and he has 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to meet the candidates and allow us to express our opinions to you. My name is Lawrence Ryan. It will be on the ballot. As such, everyone in the community knows me as Law Ryan. I'm a 9th grader here at the high school, and throughout his scholastic career, I've always tried to get involved with the school and the community with different things that he's involved with. Being a sports coach for the Bark, obviously the mine coach, PTA, Super Science Saturday liaison for Milton Terrace, and I just see being on the board as just the next step to being service to the community and just being involved with the school. I work for AngioDynamics, which is a medical device manufacturer, and have been in that industry for about 24 years. Very technically oriented, deals with a lot of policies and procedures, similar to the way the board is designed. When you get mandates from New York State and policies and such. So I feel that skill set would be helpful in reviewing the things that need to be from that perspective. And I just, have been on the board since December as an interim appointment. So I understand the time commitment and feel this is something that's a good fit for me at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Jason Gertler.
Good evening. I'd like to start off by saying thank you to the League of Women Voters for this opportunity. Thank you, Barb, and your associates. Thank you to each and every employee of our district. Educators, principals, transportation staff, maintenance, support staff, coaches, the administration. It is everything that each of you do, along with our volunteers and PTAs, that make our school district function, and we salute you. Thank you. My name is Jason Gertler, and I'm honored to be considered a candidate in this very important election. I'm a 1992 graduate of Ballston Spa High School, and together with my lovely wife, Jennifer, we have 2 sons, 4-month-old and a first grader at Milton Terrace. I've lived here most of my life and have been a part of our community in many different capacities. I've previously coached T-ball and instructional league baseball with Ballston Area Recreation Commission and currently coaching Little League Baseball for Ballston Spa Junior Baseball League. I'm also an active parent in Ballston Spa Pac-1 Cub Scouts. As parents, we need to stand together and continue to be a voice for our children.
Thank you.
I will be that voice on our school board. I have fought against mandates, I fought for parental choice, and there will be many more pressing issues to deal with in the future. As a member of the board, I will continue to ask the tough questions that parents want the answers for. I'll bring transparency to a place where it seems there is none, and I will continue to advocate for my children and all of our children as we continue to make this community even stronger than it ever has been. I'm always here to help. That's how community works. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry to have interrupted. Next, we're going to hear from Christopher Zapiri.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Christopher Zapiri. I'm excited to be running for an open seat on the district's Board of Education. Our family moved to the district in 2016, and we've had plenty of positive experiences here, as well as some that are questionable. I believe that our children have better educational experiences and outcomes when families, schools, and communities work together. Prior to March of 2020, I might venture to say that the school community was on a great path. In 2015, the middle school was noted as a school to watch by the New York State Education Department. Even more, in 2010, 2013, and 2016, our high school was recognized as one of America's best high schools by Newsweek. This had a lot to do with our decision to come to Ballston Spa. Our experiences have changed since the beginning in the district in 2016, and even more since the pandemic struck. Since the start of the pandemic, family involvement and voice has been cast aside. I'd like to change the trajectory of the trends and hope that we can work together to bridge the gaps in instruction, increase our proficiencies in mathematics and reading, and see a higher graduation rate other than 90 or 89%. Last year, I had the opportunity to attend a leadership event with Dr. Joseph DeGrone, our former superintendent. He stated that if you wanted to cultivate change, we need a seat at the table. I'm running for that seat at the table. If elected, I hope to bring a different perspective, dedicate time to research alternative solutions, and effectively communicate to our community I serve. As a result, this should increase educational opportunities, bring more positive experiences and outcomes for all stakeholders in the school community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from Brody Savoy.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Brody Savoy. I would like to extend my email address for you to ask further questions to understand who I am and how I think. It's simply my name, brodysavoy@gmail.com. I'm a husband, father, combat veteran, man of principle, character, and rooted in logic and transparency. It's just the way I think. I think my thoughts, I think out loud. Sometimes it gets me in trouble, but in situations that we're in, I like everybody to know where I stand, how I think, because that's just the way I live my life. We're here today to discuss education and to learn about how I'm going to act on the board. So my core beliefs for you to understand how I would vote or act are rooted in this. Parents have the responsibility to educate their kids, and they delegate the authority to the local school system to educate their kids. And for that relationship to live and thrive, thank you, transparent communication has to take place. And that is where I believe I have lots of questions on how things are going in the school. I mean, we could sit up here for hours to discuss every issue. It's just not going to happen. But I think principle and logic will take you to the path that we're all looking for. We just want transparency. all the questions, if there was a reason why it was done, I think it would calm down a lot of things. So that is why I'm up here. Please reach out to me, brodysfoy@gmail.com. Any questions you have, I'll be more than happy to help you beyond what we have here today.
Thank you. And our last speaker and candidate, Holly Baker Flynn.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Holly Barker Flynn, and I am the proud mom of a 9th grader here at the high school who is also enrolled at the early college high school program run by the district. I have lived in Malta for over 20 years and supported the Ballston Spa School District itself for over a decade. I have a background in education and actually had planned to spend my career as a high school guidance counselor, but chose a different path and have been serving in higher education for the last 25 years. I have served as the parent liaison at UAlbany since 2001 and have worked with thousands of families over the years. I compassionately listen to their concerns, work to address their needs, and have always treated them with respect and the kindness that we all deserve. As a Board of Education member, I would rely on my experience, listen to the concerns of parents, students, teachers, and community members, and use sound judgment when reviewing the policies and suggesting amendments. As an individual board member, my power to implement change does not exist unless I am able to work cooperatively with my fellow board members and garner their support for the changes that I would like to see happen. I thrive in a team environment and have served on 2 of our boards within our community, BARC, the Ballston Area Recreation Commission, and the Ballston Spa Education Foundation, which I currently chair. Working on these boards has allowed me the opportunity to gain an understanding of the needs of our students and the teachers within our district. I have the experience necessary to work with a team of people to achieve our goals, which I believe for all of us is a quality education for our children. With the announcement of the impending superintendent vacancy, I think it's critical that our community elect Board of Education members who understand what is involved in a search process of this magnitude and how important it is to our children's education.
Thank you. Okay, now we're up to the section where the candidates will respond to the questions that the community sent in. The candidates will have up to 1.5 minutes to respond to a question. Each candidate has 2 red cards there. They can use those for an additional 1 minute to answer a question, and they can only use them during the question and answer session. So, and we're going to rotate the answers so that everybody gets a fair amount of chances to go first. You can hold up your red card and wait to be acknowledged. You can't use it like to interrupt somebody. You have to just hold it up and wait. This may only be done during the question section. Okay, so the very first question is going to be started by Jason Gartler, and it is, the mission of the Ballston Spa Central School District is to provide each of our graduates with every possible opportunity to earn a meaningful diploma that allows them to read, write, think, and learn well, to be well, and to be citizen ready. How does social emotional learning play a role in the mission of the school?
Barb, I thank you very much for that question. Social emotional learning could be taken in a couple of different ways. You know, I believe that all children should understand how to behave, how to respect others, how to treat each other with kindness, and how to deal with their emotions. As far as it becoming integrated into curriculum and part of the curriculum or something to be graded upon. I mean, how do you grade somebody on dealing with emotions? Is there a standard? Who sets the standard? I understand that most families, some families may not have an opportunity to have those points talked about at home. Not every family, or not every child has a loving family. So, maybe that should be something that's maybe an optional curriculum choice for a parent to sign their child up.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank
Jason. Christopher?
So I believe that the social emotional learning has a very large part in the child's academics at in any school district. It teaches them the foundations that they're going to need as they graduate, or as they graduate through the grade levels, go on to high school, to college. And it is a requirement by New York State that is taught. And it was actually a requirement that was established in 2019 underneath the General School Requirements Section J, that it is taught in a school district by a guidance counselor. And those skills are something that every person in this community needs to teach and instill in our children so that they can be successful. We can't send them out ill-prepared to be able to handle just basic feelings or be able to express their concerns in a constructive way. We need to be able to support them through this entire process of going through school. Schools have changed drastically since I've been in school. And I can't imagine what the kids today with social media and all the different platforms that exist have to deal with. And that these counselors are imperative to our children's success and them to be able to graduate from school with a degree. I believe that it plays a huge part in our ability to thrive as a community and help people be accepted for who they are, what they believe in, what they choose to do in life. These skills are things that are not taught every day in a classroom, but they are brought in when appropriate. They're able to be used. And then, the guidance counselors are working on this with their students, and those skills are actually being translated into the classroom. It's only been around for 2 years, but we may see in a few years some big changes.
Thank you. The next speaker is going to be Brody Savoy, and the question is the same.
All right, thank you. Logically looking at the question, education really happens with a proper environment and then content that everybody agrees should get taught. So with social emotional learning, I believe that to be environmental. The golden rule, do unto others as you would do unto yourself. I think that is just, common practice. Being kind, being nice to one another. Again, going back to the responsibility of the parents, you have to teach that at home as well as have those same rules in school. But necessarily having curriculum take up time against something else like mathematics and other stuff, I don't know. I believe that to be up for debate. And going through the root of my logic, if something is going to get added that drastically changes the way we teach, put a vote out there. Why don't we have the community vote on it and then have a time period where people can have open, honest debate, and then whatever comes across of it, great. Okay, awesome. If you don't like it, you can move somewhere else, but at least you had the chance to voice your opinion. So, environment and content. So.
Thank you. And now Holly Barker Flynn.
Thank you. I enjoyed watching all of the Board of Education meetings, and because my son's in 9th grade, we didn't have the social emotional learning curriculum when he was in elementary school. And I know personally it would have really helped my family. He struggled managing his own emotions, and being able to name what those emotions were, expressing empathy towards others, having shared language that is used throughout the district. I know for me personally, social emotional learning, I'm proud that it's here in the Ballston Spa School District, and I'm looking forward to seeing how those students progress through the district, having that foundation in the elementary school.
All righty. The next question is going to, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Laura. Laura Ryan.
Yes, Barb, thank you very much. I think this is a good question to start off the debate with. I think social emotional learning is probably one of the most important things when we talk about mental health with kids and starting younger. Just so you know my background, my wife is a guidance counselor, so I've gotten a lot of education at the dinner table with this topic, and I'm very pleased that we have school guidance counselors in the elementary schools right now. I think that is very helpful to push in and help kids deal with their emotions, because if you don't address what's bothering them, and if you ever heard the thing, you know, what's behind anger is sadness, what behind problems is sometimes trauma, and you have to deal with that, and you want to deal with that early so that you can take that out of the picture and they can focus on their academics. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you
Barb,
very
I'd
much.
like to use my card, please. Okay, so I just wanted to add a little bit to my statement. You know, social emotional learning could be important, again, for children that need it. I don't believe it to be an important part of every child's class. Okay? I'd like to see classrooms full of students ready to learn about math, reading, writing, science, history, arts, and physical education. I don't believe that integrated policies should be a mandated part of the learning curriculum. It should be an option for parents to include their children into these programs in an after-school setting, thus allowing teachers to fully maximize their time and school resources to teach the core curriculum. This would also minimize the amount of spending on unnecessary implementation of these ideologies when parents may not necessarily agree with them, and we could shift those dollars to be spent on other more important things like special education programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next question then is going to be, first go to Christopher Zapirin, and it is, what do you think the district can do to ensure adequate numbers of properly trained substitutes teachers, teaching assistants, and aides, given the current substitute shortages?
Thank you. So I think there's things that we can and cannot do. So again, any industry you're looking at today, there's staffing shortages. However, there's innovative ways to recruit and retain staff no matter what industry you're in. For example, if we're short in a particular sector, such as teaching assistants and aides, we would need to be looking at what are the salaries? Are they appropriate? Are they in line with what is offered in our region? Same thing goes for bus drivers. Are the salaries in line with what is expected in our region? Is somebody going to travel to Ballston Spa when they can go 5 miles down the road and make $5 or $6 more an hour? That will make all the difference in who you hire, and we have to evaluate that. We can't be looking at evaluations that were done years ago. Things have changed drastically, especially in the last 2 years. There are ways to recruit and retain staff, well-educated, appropriate staff that will interact with our children and help them through this entire process of their education. We just need to be innovative in our ways to approach them and hire them. If we don't, we're going to continue to see the continued short staffing issues that we see everywhere, including in this district. And if we don't continue to recruit and try to change the way we're recruiting and looking at paying and incentivizing people to come to the district, we're never going to make any difference. Unfortunately, money talks sometimes, and salaries are not always the end all, but these are people who are interacting with our children on a daily basis. We want the most educated, we want the highly qualified people in this district, and we're not going to get them with wages that we're currently paying today.
Thank you. Okay, and the next question, and the same question, actually. Brody.
Awesome, thank you. Going back to the way my brain works, environment. You have to create an engaging, fun environment for people to stay there. You can pay them $1 million, but if the environment doesn't deem it that it's worth it, then they will go somewhere else. So taking that to the classroom, you have to have a fun, engaging school environment ran by the leadership of the town. And then the content. You have to give the teachers the free will to do what they signed up for, educate the children. I think there's been a lot of policies over the last few years that have really restrict the autonomy of how education actually gets delivered to students. I know my son was studying for some state exams. He's a pretty calm, cool, collected guy. But again, environment, are you creating an environment that's worth being there? And do you have content that the educators are really excited to deliver? You know, private sector rules of supply and demand will prevail. If somebody's paying more down the street, yeah, with a better environment, they might go there, they might not. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Holly Barker Flynn?
Well, I see this from the higher education lens. There has been a decline in students actively going into higher education and pursuing degrees in education. So I think that the district could actually work to encourage their students themselves to go into education, maybe offer some additional incentives. As was mentioned, money doesn't always motivate everybody, but offering to get those, aides, or substitute teachers, a pathway to get their master's degree, which is required in New York State. That might be something that the Board of Education could look at doing to incentivize people from our community going out into the field of education.
Thank you. Lo?
Thank you, Barb. I do agree with Brody saying, you definitely want to enjoy going to a place where you work. And, I feel Ballston Spa is a district of choice, and I would like to, keep it that way where people want to, one, come and live here and seek out the education that we offer. Same thing with employment. I see people who live in the district, but they work in other school districts, and how do we get them to, be closer into our community? I think that if nothing we've learned through the pandemic is flexibility, right? So how do we, money may not be it, but is there a flexible choice with a substitute that, they need childcare, where they can't come in and be a substitute if they need to deal with childcare? Is there something we can do to offer a childcare option so that they could come in and work? So I'm not sure that, obviously, I say that, there's a lot of logistics behind that, but that's where my thinking is how do we come up with options outside of the normal? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Jason?
Thank you. Just to go back on something that was mentioned before here, I don't believe that you need a master's to become a substitute teacher. Right? I'm pretty sure you don't need that. Well, I think let's take a look at what happened here 2 years ago. Prior to COVID, I don't think this was so much of an issue, getting kids to school, getting substitute teachers to come here to work. And then COVID hit, and everybody got, everybody did their thing. We were shut down. We couldn't come to work. We were forced to wear masks. We were forced to get vaccinated. So I think the plain and simple answer here is most people don't want to come to work for a school if they have to get vaccinated or if they have to test on a regular basis to prove that they're not sick. So I'm pretty sure that's the reason why you're having a staffing shortage and you're finding a work shortage around this country. So, thank you.
Thank you. Use your red card, sure.
I just wanted to clarify in case it wasn't clear. I wasn't meaning that you needed a master's to be a substitute, but many of those substitutes and aides would really like to be classroom teachers, and that they would need a master's degree in order to be a classroom teacher.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Barb, can I use the red card too?
Sure. Yeah. Lawrence, Ryan first, and then
Okay.
Christopher.
So I know I've had conversations with Jason, and I totally agree with the mandates of vaccines and masks has been frustrating for everybody. The one thing I just wanted to kind of highlight is that is coming from the New York State. So it is a mandate. we don't have choice in this school district or any school district within the state to do that. So I agree with you that the reason why the job market is so tough is because they don't want to get vaccinated, they don't want to get tested, and that is not a school district problem, that is a New York State problem that needs to be addressed. You know, we all were very rejoiced when the mask came off, but what people may not have realized is the governor did extend that issue for you must test people who are not vaccinated who work for you through the end of May, which I think was unfortunate because I disagree with that, but there was nothing that we could do for that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Okay, now Christopher has a red card, then you, Brody.
So I just wanted to, one second what Holly said. I think those are the innovative solutions that we could definitely employ at Ballston Spa to retain and recruit talent, to give them an option, a path to a higher education that they may not necessarily have had previously would be an option. My employer offers a tuition reimbursement program, and it's an incentive for others to go back to school, get their degree while they're also working and helping our children, and they're learning at the same time. Secondly, I want to hit on the point of what the board can actually control and has jurisdiction over. Some of these mandates are coming down from New York State or the federal government. We can't impact those as a board. So when we're sitting here and debating whether or not we should have masks on or vaccinations in our children or in ourselves, those are not issues for the Board of Education. We can certainly support our parents and decide whether or not we can come together as a group, like our superintendent currently did today, or this year, sending a letter to the governor saying enough's enough, we need some change, we need some different guidance, things have been there. Those are the things that we can do as a community.
Okay, now you go.
Thank you. So kind of going in order, Jason brought up a good point of why there's a shortage, going back to the environment, create that hostile environment. You're going to have people retired. Mrs. Hart, she taught Roman. Phenomenal teacher. I don't know why she retired, but she did. With her situation, she felt she was better off in retirement versus doing something she was clearly passionate about after being involved for 30 plus years. To another point that was brought up, why do you have to have a master's degree to be an educator? That's just a question I had, coming about. And then going back to these mandates, federalism. Thank you. When you think about what has happened in the last two years, the federal government was not designed to be making policy for us to educate our kids. Responsibility, authority, we delegate that authority to our local community for them to educate our kids. Then you're going to have one person that was elected mandate how we have this relationship. That's exactly why I'm here, because I want to be very loud and speak my mind.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is also going to go to you, Brody. And it is, in your opinion, what does diversity, equity, and inclusion mean and look like to you in our community and public schools?
Thank you. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is being nice to everybody and realizing that you can have differing opinions and still get along and be fine. I think a lot of this stuff is personally pushed onto people to think in a different way. I grew up outside of a city. I rode my bike with black kids. I remember getting into a discussion with my college professor about that specifically. He was my friend. He was black. I was in the military, served in combat, side by side with every make, shape, color, you name it. We did not care what color somebody was. And in fact, we had awesome debate. I think the art of civil debate on politics, religion, and money is gone. We should be able to teach everybody how to have that civil debate. That's what this country was founded on. We're not all supposed to agree, but we can be respectful for one another. So getting down to those core principles of just being nice and not necessarily pushing a straight agenda, I think you'd be surprised with how easy we could all get along if you just remove that and just let people talk normally.
Holly?
So I mentioned that I work at the University at Albany, and I'm very fortunate to have worked there for 25 years. It is the most diverse university in the SUNY system, and we revel in that. We are very proud of the fact that we are very diverse. I have learned so much from interacting with my coworkers and my students. I learn something new every day. I have very difficult discussions with people. I don't shy away from having discussions about diversity, equity, or inclusion. I think as far as Ballston Spa School District goes, it's a place where everyone feels welcome and that everyone feels included and that a place where they can learn from one another. We don't want everybody to be the same. We want to be able to express ourselves as true as we best can, be true to ourselves, and be able to know that when they walk through the doors of our buildings, that others will respect us and treat us with the kindness that we deserve.
Okay, thank you. Lawrence Ryan.
Well, I think going back to, we want Ballston Spa to be a district of choice where we want people to feel that we're a welcoming community. And, you know, having some programs that help the community understand what that means and exposed to different experiences, I think would help in that method. So, thank you.
Okay. So Jason.
Thank you. Diversity in our school is welcomed, right? I think you want kids of all creeds to be able to function, learn, have fun, play, participate, and do all this stuff together. That just kind of goes without saying. It's like morals and values. You know, these are things that should be already commonly known or at least introduced in the home. You know, it's an ideology that should not be mandated. Again, this is an education institution, not a we're not here to teach kids how to feel. We're here to teach them how to, you know, what to learn, how to learn how to function every day, right? To churn out good, upstanding citizens who can read, write, do math, you know, function in the arts. This is not something that I feel should be mandatory curriculum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Christopher.
Thank you. So DEI is something that I feel like we hear a lot now, actually, quite a bit. It's actually, I personally think it's something that's really important. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's teaching our children that there's differences in people, but together we can work together. It's so that children are seeing different cultures, different ethnic backgrounds, to see how other people in their cultures may do the same things that we do in a different manner. It's so that we're creating an environment that includes everybody. So no matter what your beliefs are, that they're taking into account to, and you're not having children asking questions that really are somewhat offensive. Yes, it does start at home, but it also carries on to our own employment. You know, as employers, we have you know, DEI program coordinators to ensure that we're including everybody and that everybody feels comfortable and welcome. Because without that environment, we're not going to learn. Or the children are not going to learn. They need to be able to feel that they're included and that they're welcomed, and that the diversity issues that we have to, you know, go through on a daily basis for children, they really need to have that support and understanding, just the basics. And it does start from home, but it's also carried on, you know, right here in the school. Everything that we do in the school, we bring home, and parents should be enforcing it at home. If we don't do it together, we're never going to, you know, make any difference. So I do think DEI is very important, and I think that if we were to exclude that from the curriculum, we would be sending our children off to college ill-prepared.
Okay, Holly, you're going to have the next question, and it is, do you think special education student needs are being met? And if not, how would you change that?
Thank you. This is a really interesting question for me. I have several friends who have students who require special education, and I've heard the challenges that they face advocating for their students. My friends are fortunate enough that they have the time and resources to be able to advocate for their kid, but I think special education should be available to everyone, no matter the ability of whether or not the parents can be strong advocates on their behalf. So I do believe that there is some work that needs to be done, and it is one of the things as a board member that I'm looking at trying to get a better understanding of how the process works and see where improvements can be made in order to advocate for not just the students who have parents that advocate for them, but for the students whose parents aren't aware of how to advocate for them.
Thank you, and Lawrence Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Barb. So special education is obviously one of the struggles of any school district. I know what we've done here in Ballston Spa is a multi-tiered system of supports that kind of starts off with understanding what are the needs of the student, right? Are they academically successful? And if not, what small amounts of support do we need to put into that to get them on track for what they're doing? It is a bit of a cost-benefit analysis because the special education is expensive depending on the level of services that are needed. So this is a program that's been going for a couple of years in the MTSS, and I look forward to learning more about this program as it progresses. And then as they go through the levels, as you need more services, then yes, we absolutely need to help each student, whatever their challenges are, to be successful in their learning. We just have to have this balanced approach of using our resources the best to identify what's the best way to teach those students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Christopher? Oh, wait, did I skip you, Jason? Sorry.
By the end of the night, we'll all have been skipped once. This is a very important topic to me. My family has a friend, good family friends. They have young boys, same age as my son. And they're twins, and one of them is a special needs child. And they went through every channel that they could in our district to try to make his life better every day. He was evaluated a number of times, and they just weren't getting anywhere. They actually left our district to go to a neighboring district because their special education department was much better and far superior. And their director at that school looked at the evaluations that were completed here and said, well, I don't know why they didn't do this, or didn't do that, or didn't do this. In turn, the director of special education in our district admitted to them that they failed their son, failed them. So I think that, being on the board, I'd like to take a little closer look at the financial workings of things and see how we can better allocate funding to areas of need like our special education department. I feel like there's been an overwhelming amount of frivolous spending on growing the administration and implementing unnecessary ideologies, and not nearly enough spent on improving the quality of the special education department.
Thank you. Christopher, now it's your turn.
All right, thank you. So, special education. So, I haven't been on a school board. I've been involved in the school community to a certain extent in the last 2 years, particularly more than ever. But I would say that special education is something that I would need to look at closer to really get a better understanding of what's currently happening today. But what I can tell you from the experience I've had, having one of my own children fall 2 years behind the subject, If it wasn't for my wife, who was a guidance counselor, advocating for her to get the support she needed to bring her back up to grade level, it would never happened. We need to be able to have any parent be able to advocate for their children, and for, just as Holly has said before, for parents that aren't able or know how to advocate for their children, we need to be doing that as a board so that we're ensuring that all children are educated equally and that they're getting the same chances that are afforded to the next person sitting next to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Brody?
Thanks, Barb. Going back to the original question, special education needs, are they being met? I don't know, being straight up transparent, but the fact that's being asked as a question, then hearing the answers, being lucky to go last, it sounds as if they're not, and one of the root causes is the fact that it's expensive. So if you have a shortage of resources, which was a previous question, and why did we have a shortage of those resources? Because we are spending money on things over the last 2 years that we haven't been spending money on. So something that's very expensive and serves a very small population, that's going to get cut because you're probably going to have the least amount of phone calls back to the town. It just makes logical sense that that would be an area that needs to be addressed. So if you manage your resources appropriately, you can't just continue to raise money to fix all of these issues. Things have to be prioritized, and I think we all can agree that special education is very much a priority. Well, that needs to take priority over some other things that are not adding value to the educations of our kids. My neighbor here brought up a point of dialogue. That's exactly why a lot of my decisions are rooted in logic. It is the responsibility of the parent to advocate for their kids. I believe nobody cares more about their children's education than the parent themselves. So of course, you have to be the loudest cheerleader, but can I finish my sentence? You got to be the loudest cheerleader, and you have to have the environment for that to happen.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is, what can be done to improve transportation for students to get to and from school each day? What actions can be taken now? And Lawrence Ryan, you're the first on that.
Thank you very much. Obviously, transportation is a frustration over the last several months, and it dovetails into the question we were talking about before with not having enough bus drivers and why aren't people wanting to work for the school district in general. What I know I have done is just try to have a support group of friends so that if something happened and we couldn't get the bus, we have someone that could be the carpool to the school, both before and after school. I know it's frustrating. Not every parent has that, depending on where they may live, but it is frustrating where, when the reason why a school bus is not running is because of either they're called in due to COVID or because called in for other reasons, and everyone who has a CDL is in the bus. So if your job is a mechanic or an office person, if you have a CDL, you're behind a wheel trying to get the kids to school. And there's just, it's a math equation. There's just so many of those backup positions that we have. I don't have a quick fix right now other than, how did we get through this pandemic with a lot of different things is just trying to come together as a community with family and friends and be flexible. Thank you.
I think we could look at it from a financial standpoint. Bus drivers, they have a lot to deal with every day. They have 30 or 40 kids on a bus, and they have to keep their eyes on the road. They're not able to focus on the kids like a teacher can in a classroom. And, things can get a little wily on a bus. I rode a bus, I like to sit in the back and throw paper balls and, hoot and holler, and, bus driver would pull over and she would have to stop driving, pull over, stand up, turn around, and yell at all of us. And I don't know if they're even allowed to do that anymore. You know, but how do you entice somebody to come and work for the district? A, they have to have a CDL, they have to have a passenger endorsement, and they have to be able to want to put up with 40 wily kids twice a day, 4 times a day, right? Because you're doing secondary runs and you're doing primary runs. So, you know, and it's part-time work. So how do you make it more enticing to somebody to come and maybe, you know, offer a sign-on bonus? You figure out how to move some funding in the budget and, you know, offer sign-on bonuses, increase the pay. Thank you very much.
So if you don't know by now, I'm actually quite passionate about the bus issues here in Ballston Spa. To be frank, it's outrageous that we're continuing to experience these into May. Just as early as this morning, buses were canceled. It's unacceptable from a district standpoint. There are solutions that other districts locally have put into place in the last 5 months that have worked. They have not had these ongoing bus issues, such as a sign-on bonus and a retention bonus, paying them a salary that's equitable to other districts that are local near them. We have Shenandoah just right down the road paying $5 more an hour for a bus driver than in Ballston Spa. So if you're a bus driver in a situation where he just described as a pretty crappy job, which I would disagree with because they're the first person from the school district that our children see on a daily basis, that sets the tone for the day. So I would say that there's solutions that we could put into place, and if we can't get bus drivers, then the school district should be putting in solutions for parents to stop the disruption. I made a suggestion to the Board of Education this year to implement, if your child is supposed to be picked up at 8:40 a.m., we have wraparound care. Let's have somebody available at the school district to receive your kid at the time you should be picked up at the bus stop, and then somebody to pick them or be there after school for them to be there until you have your time to actually pick them up. Parents have a set schedule, we work, and the disruptions have been, are far past where they should at this point. My employer alone, I have the luxury of having some flexibility and be able to bring my children, but to spend an hour and a half on a drop-off line is unacceptable. It can only go on for so long, and this district has fallen short on the buses consistently throughout this entire year, and I hope that if I get a position on the board, I can help resolve some of those.
Thank you, Christopher. Okay, Brody.
Thanks, Barb. If you can't tell the way I think, I hope you're starting to catch on, going back to the principles of logic, environment. There is obviously an environmental change. It's not like there was a surplus of kids. There's a shortage of drivers and support people. There was a change in the environment which made it no longer worth it for that person to show up and go to work. So you have to look at the root cause versus treat the symptom. So you got to get to the root cause of the disease versus the symptom. I believe the disease to be the environment is not fun and engaging enough. I mean, being a bus driver is fun. Miss Donna's awesome. She definitely yells at the kids because she'll pull away from my house, stop, and I hear somebody yelling. It's the only person available, so it's her. You have to. You gotta have discipline and control. So going into the environment, which in my opinion is the disease, what has changed in the last 2 years to create these shortages? You have to remove those restrictions. Why are people leaving? What are the requirements to be a bus driver? Do you have to get vaccinated? Do you have to wear a mask? Are these things going against your core principles as a person? That has to be addressed, and if you do that, you'll have a surplus of people that are willing to do the job. Then you will not have a bus driver shortage problem.
Holly Barker Flynn.
I agree, it is frustrating to get phone calls in the middle of, just as you're waking up to tell you that there's no bus. But I do know that I sympathize with the board and with the district. I know it is a challenge. My husband's, both of his grandparents were bus drivers. I think that a lot of the retirees are vulnerable populations, and COVID, I think, was the reason, not Ballston Spa School District in particular. But I do think, as the board, we need to come up with creative solutions. I talked about creating pathways when it comes to teachers' aides and substitutes, and, I love the idea of a sign-on bonus, but, maybe we work with our BOCES partners to offer some pathways to try and get some additional CDL drivers and entice them to come to our district. I know that CDTA right now is using, Schenectady School District is using CDTA buses. So again, there are creative solutions out there. I just think we need a room full of people willing to think creatively to offer those solutions.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is, the current generation of youth is becoming more and more gender diverse. As a school board member, how would you propose supporting these youth? Jason?
Okay. Well, I think you have to treat everybody with kindness and respect. It doesn't matter what you identify as or what pronouns you particularly use. That's a difficult subject, I think, for a lot of people. And I think you can just treat people with kindness and respect and love and welcoming and dignity. Dignity is a big thing. And again, those things need to come from home. A good parent should teach their kids how to be good people. They should lead by example. And I think that's kind of rule number one of life, is just treat people how you'd like to be treated, with respect, kindness, love, and dignity. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher, do you want to go?
So, gender diversity, particularly in the generation that's coming through schools now, completely different than when I was in school, but something that is part of DEI, essentially. Really trying to teach people to address people and how they want to be addressed, because it's being respectful, it's being kind. But there's certain things that some people find offensive, but there's ways to have conversations still with any person in any room, as long as you're kind, you treat them with respect that they deserve, and that you're being inclusive. I don't care at the end of the day, you love who you love, you are who you are. And that's something that our children will see every single day. If we don't start teaching and letting them, and again, it does start at home, but also here in school, it has to be carried over. Everything we do at home has to carry to school and vice versa. And we have to start teaching that now, because we're going to send them, again, ill-prepared for things as they grow older and they get out in the community and start doing things on their own. We need to prepare them for every possible situation they may encounter, if we can, in all reality. Calling somebody the wrong pronoun may seem minute to some, but it's quite offensive to others. And we need to be aware of that. And these programs like DEI, social emotional learning, help to do that and help foster that environment that we need to have a community that we strive on, of saying that we are inclusive. So I really hope that we can come together as a community and look at these issues and work together to what's appropriate.
I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. I believe God created man and woman. My wife's pregnant. I had a trained professional, aka a doctor of many years, say the only difference is that last chromosome. So that is how I believe. That is what I teach my kids at home. And as far as your question, you're looking at the disease versus the symptom. Kids being mean to each other is never going to go away. You can fill in the blank with whatever's most convenient, whether it's online stuff, this what we're talking about. But you have to treat people. You have to tell and teach your kids, which does start at home, to be nice to one another. And if you allow people to start believing things that are just, in my opinion, not true, well, they are going to be confused for the rest of their life, and we're almost doing them a disservice. Now, I'm also on the libertarian side of that, of like, hey, I'm going to live over here and do me. If you want to go do that, you do you. So that's the way I would address it. Give them the freedom and liberty to do what they want. But as far as what we teach in my house, like, yes, there's a man and a woman, and you're a boy, you're a girl. If not, like, yes, that is where you have the guidance counselor step in and help provide that person some help.
Well, I'm really glad this question was asked because there's two reasons why I decided to run for the Board of Education. One is because I want to be an advocate for all of our youth, and that goes regardless of their gender or their gender identity. I actually have friends who have a trans son in this district, and I think it's important that that individual and everybody else's children has somebody there to advocate for them. And also, since we're talking about gender and diversity, our current board only has one female candidate on it, and that was the deciding factor for why I chose to run, because I think a 7-member board in our district should have at minimum 2 female candidates on the board. And so that is why I chose to run, because I think that boys and girls have different experiences in life, and I think that our females in the school district need a role model for them to look up to, and I hope to be that for them.
Thank you, Barb. I do agree with a lot of the comments that, you know, in life, you just got to be kind, right? And we teach that a lot in how we interact with everybody. And this topic is no different, right? And, you know, as Brody said, there's bullying for any topic, and, you know, insert the reason why. And, you know, the schools do have, you know, the DASA mentality to help address that when it happens, so that we can make sure that anyone who is bullied is treated with respect. And we just need to understand that everyone is different, but we're all one community, and we all need to be inclusive. So it does, I agree, does fall into the DEI umbrella. So thank you.
Thank you. The next question is, what do you think the district should do to continue to address the socio-emotional and behavioral needs of students because of the COVID-19 pandemic? What is your plan to catch up in skills lost over the past 2 years of interrupted learning? How should the board work with the Board of Health in COVID response? And the first person to answer that will be Christopher.
That was quite a few questions, I think,
Yeah.
all in one there.
Yeah, I got your back.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What do you think the district should do to continue to address the socio-economic and behavioral needs of students because of the COVID-19 pandemic? And what is your plan to catch up in skills lost over the past 2 years of interrupted learning, also from COVID? And how should the board work with the Board of Health in COVID response?
All right, thank you. So from the behavioral social side of things, I think that the district, the plan that they currently have in the budget that's proposed for us to vote on May 17th is definitely going to assist with that. They've got some additional funding in there for some support teachers to assist with those that are falling behind. I think that's a step in the right direction, and will definitely assist with that. The skills that have been lost over the 2 years, we've got to recover those skills. We didn't lose a solid 2 years of learning, but we certainly have children who are further behind than they should be, and we need to get them back up to speed. I believe that there's going to be a lot of things that we have to look at as a board as a whole to determine what those gaps are in the children that are currently here today. What are the gaps? What are the needs? We need to do an evaluation and needs assessment of what the current needs are so we can actually determine what those are and get the right staff in there to assist those students. As far as the board working with the Department of Health in the COVID response, I am a nurse at heart. That was what I went to school for. I believe that we need to follow the science. Do I believe that we should be having mask mandates and whatnot at this point? I believe that we do have personal choice. We've been living with COVID-19 for 2 years. My kids come to school every day with a mask on, but they have the option to take it down when they feel comfortable. So I think we need to be working with Saratoga County Public Health? Absolutely.
Thank you. Good question. Got 3 points. I use OODA loop. For those of you who don't know, it's observe, orient, decide, act. Observe what is happening, orient to yourself how it relates to you, make a decision, act on the decision, and then you start all over again observing how your decision's been made. COVID should not be a surprise to any of us. It's been going on for 2 years. We have a lot of data that's come out, proving one point or another. So going back to how you're going to address the needs, well, we have to stop digging because COVID got us into this hole. So we have to review why we got here and then make sure we don't do that again. Skipping forward to the Board of Health, weigh the risks. Like, life is dangerous. You may get hurt. It's just a fact of life. So the risk of the environment versus what you're actually trying to do, going to the environment to learn, well, you have to weigh that. And if a discussion is very controversial, then let's have a discussion. Going back to that thing of civil debate, send it out to the public. Let's have a forum. Let's decide as a community and move forward. Yes, OODA loop. Don't dig because we know how far down we got, and then let's make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yes, I think that we should definitely take a look and identify the needs and implement the necessary change. But I wanted to spend some time talking about the social development part of it, which was the first part. My son's a 9th grader, as I mentioned, and so the last year when he had his full year of instruction was 7th grade. And let me tell you, the difference between how he is as a 9th grader and how I was as a 9th grader is huge. And so there's a real social gap there that these children have missed out on. And I think that it's important to really try and focus on helping these students learn to have relationships with other people, because that is what I think suffered. They were taught during the pandemic that they were taught to fear other people because it might make them sick, and that fear is still lingering in the back of their minds. And so I think it's really important that we do take a look at the needs and work with the Board of Health to continue to follow safe practices. But again, I do agree that we need to have a plan to move forward and helping those students make up for that lack of understanding of how to be a social individual moving forward.
Thank you. Jason?
Are we skipping law again?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Barb. Yes, lots to unpack in that one question. So for the social emotional learning, yes, Christopher is right. We do have some positions that are proposed that are in the budget. Please vote yes, May 17th. Thank you. And both at the K through 5 level and also at Milton Terrace with a mental health program. And really, when you look at even before COVID, we hired the guidance counselors at the elementary school, which I think couldn't have happened at a better time, right before COVID. I mean, they were on the ground ready to help, even with the COVID, when we were remote, and all the challenges that we had with that. So I think that piece, we just have to kind of follow through with what we have set with those guidance counselors in the new positions. The skills assessment is exactly what we started a couple years ago with MTSS, multi-tier system of support. So, and in a previous board meeting, they had it up on the screen, and they had all these different colors, red, yellow, green. And I kind of like to summarize things as it was money ball for education, right? So you had to put your best efforts into how do you get as many kids to grade level as quickly as possible. So we have to, we started that a couple years ago. It's in place at the perfect time to help the kids to understand what they need, and we have that thing to assess. So thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Barb. So, members of the board take every issue seriously. And, we're going to handle them one at a time. The job of the board is to govern the district based on ideas presented by the superintendent, right? The superintendent brings forth curriculum changes, planned budgets, learning programs, extracurricular activities, et cetera, and the board reviews those proposals and votes according to what the district families and stakeholders want. That's why we're elected. So, the Constitution gives no authority to the government over education. Our school district is our own little government. We're elected here as the board to make sure that it runs well, that it spends efficiently, and that we hire good leaders. And to address the social thing, not every child is emotionally hurt right now. Not every one of them at all. I don't believe that. So why do the needs of a few have to determine what's necessary for the rest of us? A little verklempt by the red card. Thank you.
So just to follow up on the social aspect of that, because I wasn't able to hit that in my original response, but I had some time to think as other candidates were speaking. The social piece, well, some of my opponents here don't believe it impacts every child. I would tend to disagree. There's children that started kindergarten during the pandemic and have yet to have a first year of school that's been normal, my son being one of them. Every child that I have 3 beautiful children sitting in the audience, they've all had issues during COVID, and without the guidance counselors and the support of at home, they would have never made it through what we experienced for the last 2 years. And I really believe that whether you have a student who doesn't suffer from any social or emotional issues because of the pandemic, there are plenty in the district, and there's things that are employed through some of these educational programs that are going to help everybody regardless of whether or not you have a social emotional concern or issue at the given time. It's going to give you the strategies to employ those strategies to be a successful human.
Okay, thank you. The next question, and it's going to be our last question because I'm looking at the clock there, is what is your plan to reduce or eradicate violence and bullying in our schools, and I would say on the buses too? What should the consequences be for those who instigate violence against other students and staff? And the very first person will be Brody.
Thanks for keeping track of that. My mind is racing. Reducing violence on schools and on buses. Going back to the root cause, why are kids acting out? They're acting out because the environment we provided them over the last few years has been pretty hostile. I mean, all these issues, all of that. Well, get rid of all the things that cause the hostile environment, and then if somebody breaks the law, enforce the law. I don't know what the consequences are now, but when I was in school, if you got caught fighting, you went home, and it wasn't nice being home. You were probably doing chores. You weren't online playing Xbox. So, yeah, the responsibility certainly is on the parents to make sure the punishment fits the crime, but it's also a responsibility of the district to make sure they're actually disciplining kids. So if you want to curb bad behavior, you need to make sure there's a negative consequence for whatever they're doing that's acting out. To me, this is just cause and effect. It's a giant elephant in the room. COVID is causing all of these issues that we've been asked. We really haven't touched on, international trade, supply and demand, like any of the things that are really going to make our kids successful. Instead, we're dealing with symptoms that COVID caused. Like, handle COVID, make sure it doesn't happen again. In the event something else comes out, we have to have liberty-minded people that are going to protect our children with logic and transparency. And then, of course, you can handle any other thing that comes up with just basic decision-making skills.
Thank you. Holly?
Well, I think the social emotional learning in the younger grades is actually a great first step to be able to help the disruptions not start in the first place. As I mentioned, I do have a student in the high school, and I know that there has been substantial violence. I did watch the presentation and know that it's the transitional years from the middle school to the high school and the elementary to the middle school. And so clearly there's some interventions that are needed prior to them getting to those next grade level. I think that maybe there could be some additional training that goes into not just the classroom staff, but all of the district employees on how to de-escalate situations. I think right now our climate is just, it's very negative. People are quick to anger. They're quick to think, I'm right, you're wrong, and so therefore you automatically have to be antagonistic towards each other, and that's not the case. It just needs to, take a breath, be able to calm yourself down before you react, and I think that could go a long way if we were able to train all of the staff and how to intervene and start with teaching the students how to do that themselves.
Thank you. The next person is going to be Lawrence Ryan.
Thank you, Barb. As we touched on before with the guidance counselors and conflict resolution at the younger levels, I think that really starts to, whatever might be brewing, help quell that and get them to kind of work out their differences. As far as how does a board member reduce or eradicate it, I think that's kind of hard. We already have policies and procedures in place for when kids, misbehave, and it varies from I pushed a kid versus I threw a punch at their face, right? And the consequences are different as well. So, we have the policies and procedures in place for that. I don't see a drastic need for a change in that regard. And like I said, just as we mentioned before, just be kind. Just try to keep pushing that mantra, because that's what we're here to do, is to try to get just at a high level. We're trying to make good citizens, right? We want them to learn math and history, and not everyone's going to be a physicist. There's going to have different pathways for what they're going to do when they grow up, but we want citizen ready. It's one of our mantras in the school district, and that's what all our job is: parents, board members, community members, so that we reduce those risk factors for the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason?
So I coach Little League Baseball, and I have a bunch of 7- and 8-year-old kids on my team. It's really awesome. And my number one rule is no horseplay. My number 2 rule is to respect your teammates. And my number 3 rule is if you break number 1 or number 2, you're going to there will be consequences, whether it be take a lap around a field or do, some jumping jacks or something. There are certain pillars of a child's life, upbringing. They're the parents, their coaches, their teachers, and their friends' parents, other community members. These should be the ones to shape young kids into ideal citizens. Violence and bullying, it should not be tolerated ever, anywhere. It happens, and it's unfortunate. I was in fights in high school, not instigated. I was the recipient of them sometimes. But, again, it starts in the home. Just teach your kids to be kind and courteous and respectful and friendly and nice, and violence will eventually be resolved.
Okay. And Christopher?
So I believe that we've got some serious bullying, we've got some serious fights occurring, particularly at the middle school and high school level, that need to be addressed. I think that the district in 2019, by starting the SEL curriculum, was the step in the right direction. That, like we just said, it just started in 2019, but I hope and believe that in 3 or 4 years, we're going to start to see the results of those children that started in those lower grades, getting this training and education around that, so that they're able to cope with what they're dealing with behind the scenes, so that the anger is not causing a massive outburst and then resulting in them having an altercation with a student. So I think we're taking the right steps as a district, starting at a much younger age and getting them prepared to be able to control their feelings and express themselves appropriately so that we're not engaging in altercations. My own personal experience, having a daughter in middle school, the fights that she describes are appalling. Most recently, she described a fight that happened outside of the school buses where there was no teachers or administrators outside, but yet the school bus drivers had to get off the bus while the bus was running, leave the kids in there to break up a fight. Teachers, administrators, any adult in this building or in any of the campuses should be present. If the bell rings, when I was in high school, they stood up at the doorway. You see an adult there, it's going to prevent some of this from happening. Parents at home, I agree. If you've got a child here fighting, the discipline at home has to match what happened here. There's a zero tolerance policy for it.
Okay, thank you. Brody has the first red card, then you, Jason.
Cool. Just a random thought came to mind. Going back to the art of civil debate. If you're bored, I ask you to go try this. Go to a friend's house, family, whoever, and just start talking about politics, religion, and personal finances, and let me know how your night goes, right? I think as adults, we do not know how to have civil debate. Look at Twitter, online, all of that stuff. So we are asking our kids to do something we ourselves are not very good at, because society has told us that stay away from these things, right? Stay away from these things, go about your business, do everything else. Well, we as adults have to hone our skills in that, exactly it, art of civil debate. Politics, religion, personal finances are a great place to start, and then your kids will watch you get into a civil debate, and then when something happens at school, they will be able to control their emotions to be able to say, yeah, you know what, that's a good point. I don't agree that, but I'm sure we can still be friends because we still like Pokemon. I mean, it's not rocket science. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jason.
Okay, so just to get back to what I was saying, I think that, yes, there should be consequences, right? If you are a violent offender in the school, absolutely. You should be hauled down to the principal's office by your ears, maybe. I don't know. It seems like parents today are taking away the abilities of schools to discipline kids and then holding them responsible for not doing anything about it. Just allow there to be serious consequences. If you are in a fight, you're out. Don't come back. I mean, as violent as some of these fights that I've seen in the school this year, it's horrifying. And to touch on some other things that Brody mentioned, social media. Social media is killing our kids' minds. You know, these kids are on TikTok, these kids are on Snapchat or, you know, Instagram, whatever they're doing, it is just rotting their brains.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody have a last chance to use a red card, because then you can't use them. Okay, we're going to move to the closing statements. And you have only 1 minute for that. And we'll go in the opposite order that you are on the ballot. So Holly Barker Flynn, go ahead.
Well, thank you to the League of Women Voters for being here tonight to moderate this for us. I just really wanted to reiterate that with Ken leaving us, the superintendent role is critical to our children's education. I have participated in numerous high-level search committees in the past and know what it takes to find good candidates and the time commitment it's going to require of the next Board of Education. I will not settle when it comes to finding a superintendent for our school, as I know it is too important to both our children, our teachers and administrators, and our community members. We deserve excellence, and I will work hard to find the right person to lead our schools. Again, as the only female candidate, I really hope that you see that I also have the experience required to do this position, and hope that you will consider voting for me.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next person will be Brody.
I really enjoyed this. This was fun. Going back to my opening statement, if you want to continue the conversation, email me, brodysavoy@gmail.com. It's very straightforward. I'd love to chat it up. I hope I gave you a glimpse onto how I think, logic, transparency. Obviously, my military past and lacrosse and other stuff, just the way I was raised, has helped form the way I think. And I think having transparency and logical thought are exactly what we need. If you liked what I had to say, vote for me. If you didn't, don't tell your friends and don't vote for me. That's all.
Okay, the next person is going to be Christopher Zapori.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. This was great. I got to really hear some different views on many different questions and points that we have to work on in our community. But one thing is for sure, our community right now is divided on many issues. Some issues are well within the control of the Board of Education, and some are not. If elected, my commitment to everyone in the school community, parents, caregivers, teachers, faculty, staff, and most importantly, students, is to listen to their concerns, be a voice for their concerns, make informed decisions, and communicate those decisions with as much transparency as possible. After all, I believe we should follow our own motto, which is educating everyone takes everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Gertler.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters. It's been an honor to sit here and address our community. My motivation for being on the board is my children and my community's children. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that they have a bright future in this district. If elected, I'm going to be swearing an oath to protect the Constitution of the United States and to protect the Constitution of the state of New York. After all, that's what elected officials are held to. So, again, I just want to be transparent with everybody, and I want everybody to go out and vote for Jason Gertler on May 17th, right here, or at the Town Hall in Malta, if you are a resident of the town of Malta, Holly. Again, it's just, this is a system of checks and balances that the board is functioning, and
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last speaker now is Lawrence Ryan.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. I'll take a page from Brody. My email is lawryan100@gmail.com, LAWRYAN100. Feel free to email me with any questions or comments. I think next year needs to be normal, like 2018 normal, right? No masks, no mandates, no nothing. So whatever is in the power of the board, I will foster that. I also agree with Holly that hiring the next superintendent will be key for the district going forward for many years. Anyone who manages people, who you hire is the most paramount thing, who you have on your team. And what I propose is, I'd like to make common sense decisions based on the information that I have available. I'd like to ask a lot of questions if I don't have all the information available. And also, just to touch on, teachers and support staff, what can we do to support them? Be happy to consider all options so that they're supported in teaching our children. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank all of the candidates for attending this event and helping to educate the voters of this district about where you stand. And I want to thank the audience members for showing interest in your community. Please vote May 17th. The ballots are going to be cast between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. In the Ballston Spa District residents can vote either in the Malta Town Hall for the residents of Malta or the Ballston Spa High School for the residents of Milton, Ballston, and Charlton. So you really don't have the choice of either place. It's, it's by where you live. But let me go over that again. If you live in Milton, Ballston, or Charlton, you come here. If you live in the town of Malta, you vote over in Malta at the town hall. Okay, thank you all, and good night.